They laughed at the joke Warship, then it erased their fleet. Part 1. The room fell silent as Commander Alex Donovan walked to the center of the circular chamber. Light from above shined down on him, making him feel like he was on trial. In a way he was. The Galactic Alliance Council members stared at him from their raised seats, their alien faces showing various forms of doubt. "You may present your ship design, Commander," said the Zentari representative, his blue skin reflecting the light as he gestured with four-fingered hands. Alex nodded and pressed a button on his wrist pad. A large hologram appeared behind him, showing a spaceship unlike any in the Alliance fleet. Where Zentari ships were sleek and crystal-like, and Kraxthar vessels were massive and intimidating, the human ship looked odd. It had bumps and bulges in random places. Its weapons weren't lined up neatly. Parts of it seemed to be stuck on as afterthoughts. "This is the USS Mockingbird," Alex said, his voice steady despite his nerves. "Earth's newest warship design." A sound like water bubbling came from one of the council members. The translation came through Alex's earpiece. "The humans call this a warship?" More sounds followed, the different alien versions of laughter. Alex kept his face calm, but his hands tightened behind his back. Admiral Patricia Hayes stood beside him, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, her uniform perfect. She was humanity's highest-ranking officer in the Alliance, and she kept a diplomatic smile on her face. "The Mockingbird may not match your aesthetic standards," she said, "but we believe it will serve its purpose well." The Zentari ambassador waved a blue hand. "Humans joined our alliance only 3 years ago. We understand you have much to learn about proper starship design." His voice was kind, but clearly talking down to them. "Perhaps in time you will catch up to the other races." Alex wanted to explain that each strange bump on the ship held advanced sensors, that the uneven weapon placement was based on quantum physics theories no other race had discovered, that the entire ship used a new propulsion system that would revolutionize space travel. But his orders were clear: reveal nothing. "We appreciate your patience as we develop our fleet," was all he said. After the presentation, Alex and Patricia walked together down the long hallway of the Alliance headquarters. Their footsteps echoed on the polished stone floor. "That went about as expected," Patricia said quietly. "They think we're jokes," Alex replied. "Did you see how the Kraxthar representative could barely keep from laughing out loud?" Patricia stopped walking and turned to face him. "Let them laugh. What's that old Earth saying? He who laughs last laughs best." Behind them, Lieutenant Sam Collins jogged to catch up. Sam was the chief engineer of the Mockingbird, a younger man with bright eyes and always messy brown hair despite military regulations. "Commander, Admiral," he said with a quick salute. "I heard the council wasn't impressed." Alex shook his head. "That's putting it mildly." Sam grinned. "Let them laugh. They haven't seen what she can do yet." 3 weeks later, the Mockingbird received its first assignment. Captain Laura Mitchell stood on the bridge reading the orders on her tablet. Her face showed her disappointment. "Escort duty," she told her crew. "We're to protect supply ships running between Proxima Station and the Arcturus outposts." Lieutenant Ryan Garcia, the tactical officer, didn't hide his frustration. "Escort duty? That's what they give to the oldest, slowest ships in the fleet. Nothing ever happens on those routes." "Those are our orders," Laura said firmly, though she agreed with him. "We ship out at 600 tomorrow." The Mockingbird's crew prepared the ship with professional efficiency, despite their disappointment. They had all hoped for a chance to prove what their unusual vessel could do. Instead, they were being put in the safest corner of Alliance space. The next morning, Laura sat in the captain's chair as the Mockingbird left its dock. The ship hummed with power beneath her, responding to commands instantly. Whatever the Alliance thought of its appearance, the ship handled beautifully. "Course laid in for Proxima Station," said Navigator William Powell, his fingers moving across his control panel. "Execute," Laura ordered. The Mockingbird moved away from the station, its engines glowing with a light that shifted between blue and green. Another aesthetic oddity that actually represented humanity's greatest technological achievement, the phase shift drive. 3 supply ships waited for them at Proxima Station, large, slow vessels carrying food, medicine, and equipment to the outer colonies. The Mockingbird took position ahead of them as they began their journey. Days passed without incident. The crew performed their duties perfectly, but boredom began to set in. This wasn't what they had trained for. On the 5th day, Intelligence. Officer Kate Summers requested to see Captain Mitchell privately. When they were alone in the captain's ready room, Kate placed a tablet on the desk. "Captain, I've been analyzing some strange data patterns," she said. "The Vexcar ships have been moving around the Tartarus Nebula in unusual patterns." Laura frowned. The Vexcar were a predatory species that had refused to join the Alliance. They had caused trouble in the past, but had been quiet for years. "Show me," she said. Kate brought up a display showing ship movements over several weeks. "They're gathering forces here, and here," she pointed, "but keeping them just beyond normal Alliance patrol routes." Laura studied the patterns. "This looks like preparation for an attack." "That's what I thought," Kate said. "I sent my analysis to Alliance Command yesterday." "And?" Kate's expression tightened. "They dismissed it. Said it was probably just training. Exercises, and that I was being paranoid. One admiral suggested that humans tend to see threats where none exist because we're new to space." Laura's jaw clenched. Once again, the Alliance was dismissing human insights. "What do your instincts tell you?" "That something bad is coming," Kate said without hesitation. "The Vexcar don't do training exercises this elaborate." Laura thought for a long moment, then nodded. "Plot a course to the edge of the Tartarus Nebula." Kate's eyes widened. "Captain, that's well outside our patrol route." "I'm aware," Laura said. "We'll complete this escort mission, then make a slight detour. Tell no one except navigation. We'll just do a quick scan with our special sensors and be back en route before anyone notices." "This could get you in serious trouble," Kate warned. Laura smiled slightly. "Sometimes it's better to ask forgiveness than permission, especially when no one takes you seriously to begin with." As the Mockingbird continued its escort duty, the crew had no idea that their captain had just set them on a course that would change the history of the Alliance forever. In 5 days, they would be the only thing standing between peaceful worlds and complete destruction, and no one would be laughing then. They laughed at the joke warship, then it erased their fleet. Part 2. 5 days passed quickly as the Mockingbird completed its escort mission. The supply ships arrived safely at the Arcturus outposts, and Captain Laura Mitchell gave her crew a few hours of rest before their unauthorized detour. "Set course for the outer edge of the Tartarus Nebula," she ordered Navigator William Powell when they were back on the bridge. "Keep our engines at low power. I don't want to attract attention." William looked nervous but entered the coordinates. "Course set, Captain. We'll arrive in 14 hours. Laura nodded. "Good. Lieutenant Garcia, run a full diagnostic on all weapon systems." Ryan Garcia raised an eyebrow. "Are we expecting trouble, Captain?" "Just being careful," she replied. "Intelligence. Officer Summers has identified some unusual Vexcar activity in the area." The name Vexcar caused a noticeable tension on the bridge. Everyone knew about the reptilian species that preyed on weaker civilizations. They had been quiet for years, but their history was violent. "Shouldn't we inform Alliance Command of our change in course?" asked Communications Officer Ethan Wright. Laura shook her head. "They've already dismissed Officer Summers' report. They would just order us back to our patrol route. Sometimes you need to see things with your own eyes." The journey to the nebula was quiet. The crew went about their duties efficiently, but there was an underlying tension. They were breaking rules, and everyone knew it. When they arrived at the nebula's edge, Laura ordered the ship to power down to minimal levels. The Mockingbird drifted silently, its unusual design features now serving their true purpose. "Activate the sensor array," Laura told Kate Summers. Kate nodded and pressed a sequence of buttons on her console. Several of the random bumps on the ship's hull came to life, sending out invisible scans that could detect ships far beyond the range of standard Alliance sensors. The bridge was silent as they waited. Then Kate's console lit up with alerts. "Captain," she said, her voice tight, I'm detecting multiple Vexcar signatures, many more than my initial data suggested. Laura moved to stand behind Kate, looking at the screen. How many? 47 warships, Kate said. They're in formation, moving toward... Oh no. What is it? Laura asked. Their course will take them directly to the Palladian colonies, Kate said. It's a full invasion force. Laura felt a chill run down her spine. The Palladian system had 5 planets with human and alien colonies. Millions of people lived there and they had minimal defenses. How did Alliance intelligence miss this? Ethan asked, his voice showing his shock. They weren't looking with the right tools, Laura answered. Our sensors are the only ones that can see through the nebula's radiation. Send an emergency broadcast to Alliance Command immediately. Include all our sensor data. Ethan sent the message while Laura studied the tactical display. The Vexcar fleet was moving fast, far faster than the bulky ships should have been able to move. They've upgraded their propulsion systems, she noted. That's not good. After a tense 20 minutes, a reply came from Alliance Command. Ethan read it aloud. Message begins. Intelligence confirms Vexcar attack on Palladian system. Outpost Alpha. All available vessels ordered to Palladian system for defense and evacuation. Mockingbird to maintain position and continue observation only. Do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. Message ends. Laura walked slowly around the bridge, thinking. How long until the Vexcar fleet reaches the main Palladian colony? At their bowie. Current speed, approximately 7 hours, Kate replied. And how long would it take the nearest Alliance battle group to reach Palladian? Ethan checked his console. The Zentari defense fleet is 9 hours away. They're the closest. Laura stopped, pacing, and looked at her crew. By the time help arrives, the colonies will be destroyed. How long would it take us to reach Palladian? William checked the navigation system. 4 hours at maximum speed, Captain. Everyone on the bridge understood what she was considering. The Mockingbird was the only ship that could reach the colonies before the Vexcar. Captain, Ryan said carefully, our orders are to observe only. I'm aware of our orders, Lieutenant, Laura replied. I'm also aware that millions of innocent people will die if that Vexcar fleet reaches Palladian unchallenged. She returned to her captain's chair and sat down, her decision made. Set course for Palladian, maximum speed. Prepare all systems for combat. The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. They were just one ship. The Vexcar had 47 warships. Captain, Ethan said, I feel obligated to point out that this is suicide. The Mockingbird is untested in actual combat and we're outnumbered. Laura nodded. Your objection is noted, Officer Wright. Anyone else? The bridge remained silent. I believe in this ship, Laura said. I believe in its design and its capabilities, even if the Alliance doesn't. And I believe we can make a difference even if it's just buying time for the colonists to evacuate. She looked around at each crew member. But this needs to be unanimous. I won't order anyone into a battle like this against their will. One by one, the bridge crew nodded their agreement. Sam Collins, who had just arrived from engineering, spoke for everyone. The Mockingbird was built for this, Captain. They might outnumber us, but they don't know what we can do. Laura smiled slightly. Thank you. Now let's prepare for battle. The next 4 hours were filled with intense activity. The crew checked every system, prepared emergency protocols, and studied the Vexcar fleet's formation for weaknesses. Sam worked with his engineering team to maximize the ship's unique capabilities. The phase shift drive was pushed to its limits, propelling the Mockingbird toward Palladian faster than any other Alliance ship could travel. As they approached the Palladian system, they could see signs of battle already underway. The small defense outpost was burning, debris floating in space. Vexcar advanced ships have already taken out the early warning station, Ryan reported. Their main fleet will reach the first colony in 23 minutes. Laura took a deep breath. Activate the adaptive camouflage system. One of the ship's strangest features came to life. The outer hull began to shift color and pattern, blending with the space around it. Not true invisibility, but enough to confuse sensors and eyes. Ready all weapons, Laura ordered. Prepare the convergence cannon. The weapon, dismissed by Alliance inspectors as an aesthetic oddity, was actually humanity's greatest military secret. It could focus the energy of the ship's reactor into a devastating beam that could cut through even the strongest shields. Laura looked at the tactical display one last time. One ship against 47. The Vexcar think they're facing helpless colonies, she said to her crew. Instead, they're about to meet the Mockingbird. Let's show them what a human joke can do. The Mockingbird accelerated into the Palladian system, heading straight for the approaching enemy fleet. The battle that would change the fate of the Alliance forever was about to begin. They laughed at the joke warship, then it erased their fleet. Part 3. The Mockingbird entered the Palladian system silently, its adaptive camouflage making it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. On the main view screen, Captain Laura, Mitchell could see the Vexcar fleet spreading out toward the inhabited planets. Already, 3 of their advanced ships were firing on the small orbital stations that protected the first colony. Tactical assessment, Laura ordered, her voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. Lieutenant Ryan Garcia studied his screens. The Vexcar fleet has split into attack groups. 3 ships are attacking the defenses of Palladian Prime. 5 more are approaching the second planet. The rest are holding in reserve formation. Laura nodded. And their command vessel? Here, Ryan highlighted a larger ship near the center of the fleet. It's coordinating all attack groups. Perfect, Laura said. That's our first target. The bridge crew looked at her with surprise. Captain, Navigator William Powell said carefully. That ship is surrounded by their entire reserve fleet. Laura smiled slightly. Which is exactly why they won't expect us to target it. If we take out their command structure, it will buy us time and create confusion. She turned to Sam Collins, who had come to the bridge from engineering. Is the convergence cannon ready? Yes, Captain, Sam replied. But we've never fired it at full power outside of simulations. There's a risk of overload. Noted, Laura said. We'll deal with that if it happens. She straightened in her captain's chair. Set course to approach Vector 227 Mark III. Keep us in the debris field from the destroyed outpost. Power weapons but maintain camouflage. The Mockingbird moved silently, through space, using the floating wreckage as additional cover. None of the Vexcar ships seemed to notice them. We're in optimal firing position, Ryan announced after several tense minutes. Laura took a deep breath. Disengage camouflage. Divert all power to the convergence cannon. Target the Vexcar command ship. The Mockingbird suddenly became visible, its hull shifting from space black to its normal gray. Energy surged through the ship as power redirected to its main weapon. They've spotted us, Kate Summers reported from her station. Vexcar ships are changing course. They'll be too late, Laura said. Fire. Ryan pressed the firing control. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then from what appeared to be a decorative protrusion on the Mockingbird's bow, a beam of intense white light shot out. It crossed the space between ships in an instant, striking the Vexcar command vessel squarely in its center. The enemy ship didn't explode. Instead, it seemed to collapse inward, crushed by forces beyond normal understanding, before vanishing in a flash of light. Stunned silence fell over the bridge. Even the crew of the Mockingbird hadn't expected such devastating power. Target destroyed, Ryan finally said, his voice showing his shock. Laura wasted no time on celebration. Reactivate camouflage, change position immediately. They'll fire at our last location. The Mockingbird disappeared again just as energy beams from several Vexcar ships lanced through the space where it had been moments before. Status of the convergence cannon? Laura asked. Sam checked his readings. Cooling cycle initiated. We have 7 minutes before we can fire again. Laura nodded. I expected that. Weapons? Prepare standard torpedoes. Target the Vexcar ships attacking Palladian Prime. As the Mockingbird moved to a new position, confusion spread through the Vexcar fleet. Without their command ship, their coordinated attack faltered. Ships began moving in different directions, some continuing their attack while others searched for the mysterious vessel that had destroyed their leader. Their communication frequency is filled with confusion, Ethan Wright reported from communications. They've never seen anything like our convergence cannon before. And they never anticipated a single ship would attack them, Laura added. We have the advantage of surprise. Let's use it. Over the next 20 minutes, the Mockingbird struck again and again. Each time it would briefly appear, fire its conventional weapons, then disappear before the Vex car could respond effectively. The human ship was faster and more maneuverable than anything the aliens had encountered before, but the advantage couldn't last forever. After the fifth attack, a Vex car ship managed to hit the Mockingbird with a glancing blow from an energy weapon. The ship shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed across control panels. Damage report, Laura called out, steadying herself in her chair. Hull breach on Deck 3, Section 4, Sam reported. Automatic seals engaged. Minor damage to the port sensor array. Camouflage system efficiency reduced to 60%. Laura processed this information quickly. They're starting to track us better. We need a new approach. She studied the tactical display, noting how the Vex car ships were now moving. Without central command, they had formed smaller groups, each protecting the others. The convergence cannon is ready again, Ryan reported. Good, Laura said, but they're expecting it now. They've spread out to minimize the damage a single shot can do. She thought for a moment, then smiled. They still don't understand how our ship works. Engage the quantum jammer. Sam nodded and pressed a sequence on his console. Another, seemingly random protrusion on the Mockingbird's hull lit up with a soft blue glow. What are we doing? Kate asked. Breaking their coordination completely, Laura explained. The quantum jammer disrupts all communication using quantum entanglement technology. The Vex car rely on it for instant communication between ships. On the view screen, the effect was immediate. The organized groups of Vex car ships suddenly seemed confused, their movements becoming erratic. They can't communicate with each other anymore, Laura said. Now target the largest remaining ship with the convergence cannon. Once again, the Mockingbird briefly dropped its camouflage and fired the powerful weapon. Another Vex car ship imploded and vanished. Return to conventional weapons, Laura ordered. Target any ship attacking the colonies directly. Over the next hour, the battle turned. What had begun as a one-sided fight against overwhelming odds had become a hunting exercise. The Mockingbird struck, disappeared, then struck again. Without coordination, the Vex car ships sometimes fired on each other in confusion. Captain, Ethan suddenly called out, I'm receiving a transmission from Alliance Command. The Zentari defense fleet will arrive in 30 minutes. Laura nodded. Good. But we need to do as much damage as possible before then. She turned to Ryan. Status of our weapons? Torpedoes at 40% capacity. Energy weapons at 65%. Convergence cannon can fire 2 more times before a major cooling cycle is needed. Make them count, Laura said. Target the ships closest to Palladian's second colony. As the Mockingbird continued its attack, word of its success spread throughout the system. The colonists, who had been preparing for the worst, watched in awe as a single ship, a ship many in the Alliance had laughed at, systematically destroyed one of the most feared fleets in known space. By the time the Zentari fleet arrived, the Mockingbird had destroyed 17 Vex car warships. The remaining enemy vessels, facing reinforcements and the mysterious human ship, retreated in disarray. The Joke warship floated amid the wreckage of the enemy fleet, damaged but victorious. Inside, the exhausted crew finally allowed themselves to celebrate. We did it, Sam said, disbelief in his voice. We actually did it. Laura looked around at her crew with pride. Yes, we did. And no one will be laughing at the Mockingbird anymore. They laughed at the Joke warship, then it erased their fleet, Part 4. The Mockingbird limped back to the main Alliance space station, its hull scarred from battle. Despite its damaged appearance, it moved with dignity. The ship that had been mocked now returned as a hero. As they approached the massive station, Captain Laura Mitchell stood on the bridge watching the view screen. Dozens of ships moved aside to clear a path for them. It was a sign of respect that none of them had expected to receive. Captain, Communications Officer Ethan Wright said, "We're receiving messages from ships throughout the fleet. They're congratulating us." Laura allowed herself a small smile. "Acknowledge them. These people stood by us when no one else would." "We're being hailed by Admiral Hayes," Ethan added. Laura nodded. On screen, Admiral Patricia Hayes appeared on the main view screen. Her usual stern expression had softened. "Captain Mitchell," she said, "the Mockingbird is cleared for priority docking. Bay 1 is ready for you." Bay 1 was reserved for flagship vessels, not escort ships like the Mockingbird. "Thank you, Admiral," Laura replied formally. "And Captain," Hayes added, "well done. The Alliance owes you and your crew a great debt." The screen returned to the view of the approaching station. Laura looked around at her tired crew. They had been running on adrenaline and determination for the past 24 hours. Now, as they neared safety, exhaustion showed on all their faces. "You've all performed beyond any reasonable expectation," she told them. "Get some rest once we dock. You've earned it." The Mockingbird docked smoothly despite its damaged systems. As the airlock connected with the station, Laura was surprised to see a large group waiting to greet them. Admiral Hayes stood at the front, along with several high-ranking officials from various Alliance species. The Mockingbird's crew disembarked to applause. It was a strange experience for all of them. Just weeks ago, they had been assigned to the least important duty possible. Now they were being treated like heroes. Laura approached Admiral Hayes and saluted. "Admiral?" Hayes returned the salute. "Captain Mitchell, the Alliance Council has requested your presence at an emergency session. Your crew will be debriefed separately." Laura hesitated. "My crew acted under my orders, Admiral. Any consequences should fall on me alone." Hayes actually smiled at that. "The only consequences today are positive ones, Captain. Now come." "The Council is waiting." They walked through crowded corridors. Alliance personnel of all species stopped to watch them pass. Some saluted. Others simply stared with newfound respect. The battle was broadcast throughout Alliance space, Hayes explained as they walked. The Palladian colonists had emergency communication systems. They showed everyone what the Mockingbird did. "We just did our duty," Laura said. "You disobeyed?" "Direct orders," Hayes pointed out. But in this case, that was exactly the right decision. They arrived at the council chamber, the same room where Alex Donovan had presented the Mockingbird's design months earlier. This time, however, Laura wasn't made to stand in the spotlight alone. Hayes accompanied her to the center of the room. The Zentari ambassador spoke first. "Captain Mitchell, your actions at Palladian saved millions of lives." Laura stood straight, hands behind her back. "My crew deserves the credit, Ambassador. They performed exceptionally." "Indeed," the ambassador continued. "But it was your decision to engage the Vexcar fleet despite orders to the contrary, a decision that proved to be correct." Laura said nothing. There was no defense needed for a choice. That had saved an entire system. A Kraxthar representative leaned forward, his massive form intimidating even seated. "We are curious about the Mockingbird's weapons, particularly the one that made enemy ships disappear." Hayes stepped forward before Laura could respond. "The technical specifications of Earth ships remain classified, Counselor. What matters is that the Vexcar threat was neutralized." The council members exchanged glances. It was clear they wanted to know more about human technology, but they didn't press the issue. The head of the council, an elderly Etherian, raised a hand for silence. "Captain Mitchell, your ship's performance against the Vexcar has changed many perspectives within the Alliance. The unique approach that humans have taken to starship design clearly has advantages we did not anticipate." Laura noticed he avoided saying they had been wrong to laugh at the Mockingbird. Politicians, it seemed, were the same throughout the galaxy. The Alliance Council has voted unanimously to award you and your crew the Star of Palladian, a new honor, created specifically to recognize your actions, the Etherian continued. Furthermore, we are reassigning the Mockingbird to lead a new rapid response fleet. Laura couldn't hide her surprise. A rapid response fleet? Hayes nodded. The Alliance has realized we need ships that can act quickly and decisively in emergencies. Ships like the Mockingbird. And, the Zentari ambassador added, we hope that Earth will share some aspects of its design philosophy with other Alliance members. After the council meeting, Laura found herself in a smaller room with Hayes and Commander Alex Donovan, who had been called to the station after the battle. They want our technology, Laura said bluntly. Alex nodded. Of course they do. The Mockingbird just destroyed 17 Vexcar warships single-handedly. Every species in the Alliance wants to know how. What will we share with them? Laura asked. Hayes looked between them. Enough to strengthen the Alliance, but not everything. Earth needs to maintain some advantages. She walked to a window that looked out into space. The Mockingbird was always more than just a ship, you know. It was a test. We needed to know if our approach to space warfare would work. I'd say it passed the test, Alex said with a smile. With flying colors, Hayes agreed. Now we implement the next phase. 20 more ships of the Mockingbird class are already under construction. Captain Mitchell, you'll be promoted to Admiral to oversee their deployment. Laura felt her heart race. Admiral? I'm not sure I'm ready for that. The Vexcar would disagree, Hayes said dryly, as would the people of Palladian. Later that evening, Laura gathered with her crew in a large observation lounge. They had been given the finest accommodations on the station, another sign of their changed status. To the Mockingbird, Sam Collins said, raising a glass. Everyone joined the toast. And to Captain Mitchell, Ryan added, soon to be Admiral Mitchell. Laura smiled at her crew. The promotion doesn't matter. What matters is that we proved something important today. Not just about our ship or our technology, but about humanity's place in the Alliance. She looked out at the stars. They laughed at us because we were different, because we didn't follow their rules or traditions. But those differences saved lives today. Think they're still laughing? Kate Summers asked with a grin. Laura shook her head. No one's laughing anymore, and that's exactly as it should be. They laughed at the joke warship. Then it erased their fleet. Part 5. 2 months after the Battle of Palladian, Commander Alex Donovan stood once again in the center of the Alliance Council chamber. This time, he wasn't alone. Newly promoted, Admiral Laura Mitchell stood beside him, along with Admiral Patricia Hayes and Lieutenant Sam Collins. The chamber was packed. Representatives from every Alliance species had come to hear the humans speak. News of the Mockingbird's victory had spread throughout known space, changing how everyone viewed Earth's contribution to the Alliance. The head of the council, the HFY elderly Etherean, called the session to order. Commander Donovan, you have the floor. Alex stepped forward, feeling much more confident than during his last presentation. Thank you, council members. 6 months ago, I stood in this room and presented the design for the USS Mockingbird. He paused, letting the memory settle. No one was laughing now. At that time, many found our design philosophy amusing. Today, I'm here to explain why that design saved millions of lives. With a gesture, Alex activated a holographic display. The Mockingbird appeared, rotating slowly to show all its unusual features. The Mockingbird's design represents humanity's greatest strength, Alex explained. We don't follow conventions because we weren't there when they were established. We innovate because we must. He highlighted different parts of the ship as he spoke. What appeared to be random protrusions are actually advanced sensor arrays that can detect ships through nebula radiation. The asymmetrical weapon placement creates unpredictable firing patterns that are harder to defend against. And the overall cobbled-together appearance hides a modular design that allows for rapid repairs even in combat. The council members leaned forward, studying the display with new interest. The Zentari ambassador, who had laughed the loudest months before, spoke first. The Alliance owes humanity a debt. Your unconventional approach saved countless lives. Alex nodded in acknowledgement. The Mockingbird was never a joke. It was a test case. the first of a new class of vessels that combine human ingenuity with the lessons we've learned since joining the Alliance. Admiral Hayes stepped forward. The holographic display changed to show multiple ships under construction in Earth orbit. Each bore the distinctive haphazard appearance of human design. The Vexcar believed that understanding conventional designs gave them the advantage, Hayes said. The Mockingbird proved the value of being underestimated. But we won't have that advantage again. Our enemies now know to fear human ships no matter what they look like. Admiral Mitchell moved to stand beside Hayes. In response to the Vexcar threat, Earth has accelerated production of Mockingbird-class vessels. 20 are currently under construction. 10 will be assigned to a new rapid response fleet under my command. The rest will be integrated into existing Alliance defense forces. A murmur ran through the chamber. This was a significant commitment from Earth, which had previously kept most of its military resources focused on defending its own colonies. Additionally, Mitchell continued, we are establishing a joint design program. Engineers from all Alliance species will work together to incorporate the best aspects of each civilization's technology. This announcement caused even more discussion. The sharing of military technology was rare in the Alliance, with most species guarding their advantages carefully. The Kraxthar representative stood, his massive form towering over the other council members. Will this program include information on the weapon that made Vexcar ships disappear? A hush fell over the chamber. Everyone was curious about this mysterious weapon. Sam Collins stepped forward, nodding to the admirals. As the chief engineer of the Mockingbird, he was best qualified to answer. The convergence cannon operates on principles of quantum gravity manipulation, Sam explained. It creates a localized distortion in space-time that compresses the target inward. The technology is dangerous and still experimental. He looked around the chamber. We're willing to share the theoretical framework with our allies, but with an important condition. The weapon cannot be used against civilian targets under any circumstances. The council members nodded in agreement. Even the most militaristic species understood the danger of such a weapon being misused. After the formal presentation ended, the 4 humans found themselves surrounded by Alliance representatives eager to discuss collaboration. The atmosphere was vastly different from the dismissive attitude they had faced before. Later, in a private meeting room, they had a moment to themselves. That went well, Hayes said, sitting down with a relieved sigh. Better than I expected. They respect us now, Laura observed. Fear us a little, too. Is that a good thing? Sam asked. Alex considered the question. Respect is good. Fear is complicated. We don't want to be feared, but we needed to show our strength. Hayes nodded. Earth was seen as the baby of the Alliance, cute, maybe interesting, but not to be taken seriously. That perception had to change if we were going to have any real influence. And now it has, Laura said. I never thought I'd be grateful for the Vexcar, but without that battle, we might have spent years trying to prove ourselves. A young officer entered the room. Admirals, Commander Lieutenant, the Palladian representatives have arrived. They're requesting to meet with you. Hayes stood. Send them in. 3 people entered the room. 1 human colonist and 2 Alari, the native species of the Palladian system. They carried an ornate box. Admiral Mitchell, the human colonist said, I'm Governor Frank Chen of Palladian Prime. We came to thank you and your crew personally for saving our worlds. The Alari opened the box. Inside was a crystal sculpture of the Mockingbird, capturing every detail of the unusual ship in perfect clarity. This will stand in the central plaza of our capital city, Governor Chen said, to remind everyone that appearances can be deceiving, and that sometimes the thing others laugh at is exactly what saves you in the end. Laura accepted the gift with visible emotion. Thank you. My crew will be honored. After the Palladian representatives left, the 4 humans looked at the crystal sculpture, seeing their strange ship through new eyes. You know what the best part is? Sam said suddenly. The Vexcar still don't understand how we beat them. They were so convinced that our ship was inferior because it didn't match their idea of what a warship should look like. Alex smiled. That's humanity's secret weapon. We never do what others expect. 2 weeks later, Admiral Mitchell stood on the bridge of the repaired and upgraded Mockingbird. Around her, a fleet of new ships prepared for their first patrol mission. Each bore the distinctive human design philosophy, but with subtle differences that made each unique. "Fleet reports ready, Admiral," said Commander Ryan Garcia, now her first officer. Laura nodded. "Signal all ships. It's time to show the galaxy what the joke fleet can do." As the Mockingbird led the fleet away from the station, Laura thought about how far they had come. From being laughed at and dismissed to leading the Alliance's most advanced rapid response force. No one was laughing anymore, and that suited her just fine.